When there's something strange going on in Congress, who you gonna call? Dan and Amy. When there's something weird going on around his camp, who you gonna call? Dan and Amy. I ain't afraid of no left.
Okay. Yeah, he's Justin's really trying to get that to go viral. Really trying to penetrate the market with that.
Yeah, really working hard
Not
there.
bad. Not good. Not bad. All right, so the latest Hollywood titan to be in the crosshairs for boorish, perhaps arguably criminal behavior if the allegations were true, Kevin Spacey. And an emergency meeting of the cast of House of Cards in the light of the Kevin Spacey allegations and, frankly, his sort of admission, apology. I was blind drunk, but if I assaulted this 14-year-old boy so many years ago, then I apologize for it.
Yeah, but he acknowledged his truth about his own sexuality when he thought it would serve him or save him, because he came out then and said, well, I've loved men and I've loved women, but right now I'm identifying as gay, as if that's excuse for his actions. But yeah, the executives from House of Cards, they came out yesterday and said season 6 is the last season, and they let the cast and crew members know that, they want to make sure that they feel safe and supported while they're finishing up shooting the last season.
Well, for more on this topic of Hollywood and the media in particular, where these stories continue to bubble to the surface, we're pleased to be joined by Gloria Allred.
Returning guest to the program.
She is an attorney representing at least one of the human stains accusers. Gloria, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for inviting me. And by the way, I represent numerous accusers of Harvey Weinstein.
Okay. Where does the Harvey Weinstein case go, do you think? Because, of course, even though the number of accusers continues to increase, the charges continue to be of a very serious criminal nature, frankly, by many of the accusers. There's also this kind of other angle where there's talk of, because of Roman Polanski, because of Woody Allen, that the Harvey Weinstein will be back in Hollywood. Do you think that's true?
Well, what we're concerned about is justice for victims. And at the time of the alleged incidents, for many of the women, but not all of them, he was employed by the Weinstein Company, and they have publicly announced that they're concerned about the victims, that they want them to achieve justice, but to date they haven't done anything to show that they're sincere in their intentions or that they intend to take any action to achieve their stated goal of justice for victims. So I have said that I think it's time for the Weinstein Company to put their money where their mouths are, and action and concrete steps are needed, and because many of these victims are without a legal remedy because so much time has passed since they were victimized. And so I have asked for a meeting with the Weinstein board to present a proposal to them. We have not had that at this point, and I think that it's important that they create a substantial fund which would be held in trust to be used to compensate victims. And then a retired judge could decide, after hearing from the victims under oath about what they allege, whether the judge finds in favor of the victims, and if so, could award damages according to proof at trial, or if the judge finds in favor of the Weinstein Company and Harvey Weinstein, then that could be announced publicly. But the point is, there has to be a system for justice for victims, and we want them to embrace this proposal and do the right thing, and let the world know that they stand with Harvey's victims. After all, the Weinstein Company made many, many millions of dollars while Harvey Weinstein was engaging in the most egregious and reprehensible acts imaginable. And we think it's time to focus on the victims and not just on Harvey Weinstein.
And besides, pain and suffering, a lot of these women couldn't become in Hollywood because they wouldn't sleep with him. They didn't, accept his sexual advances.
Right, exactly, and we think that we want deeds, not just words. We don't want crocodile tears, and we think if they compensate victims, that's going to help. And then also, Harvey Weinstein does, I'm sure, at some point want to come back to Hollywood and be a producer. And it's not enough that he's gone.
Hello, Gloria. Calling Gloria. Did we lose her? Oh.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Efforting.
We're efforting to resuscitate our connection.
Oh, hello.
Hi, sorry about that.
Sorry about that. We lost you for a second.
Okay, so I was just saying that it's not enough that Harvey Weinstein go to sex addiction therapy if, in fact, that's what he did for a week.
Yeah,
And even if he stays in contact with, the healthcare providers. Again, we're happy for anyone to get any help that he or she needs. But again, we've got to help these persons who can prove that they're victims, and we believe that there are a number of them, countless. I'm getting calls from all over the world, from many, many different states.
Well, right.
How many people?
And so there are reportedly criminal investigations in California, in New York, in London, at least. And I wonder if those criminal investigations that are running concurrently to your civil action present any particular challenges. Are some of your accusers perhaps going to be criminal witnesses against Harvey Weinstein?
Well, it may be. And, some of them are considering whether or not they are going to speak to the police. I have been in touch with law enforcement in New York. My clients have not yet spoken to law enforcement, but it's early, and many are considering doing so. But and it's very serious that there are all of these criminal investigations, and it may be that more investigations will be open in other states. This is astounding. This is unprecedented. The number of women who allege that they are victims. Of course, we can do both. They can both cooperate with law enforcement, and in addition, they can either file lawsuits, and we will be filing a civil lawsuit soon, and in addition, they can also proceed to assert claims. So we'll have to see where this goes, but this is early on. There's no end in sight, but I'm very proud of the women who have spoken out. They have spoken out what they say is their truth, and I can assure you that even though more than 60 women have spoken out, more will continue to do so in the future.
Well, how many are you representing?
Numerous. We're not giving the exact number, but I can assure you that it's a very significant number, and we may be announcing the number soon, but we're not doing it right now. We are still interviewing persons who allege that they are victims, and I spent a good part of this weekend talking with people on the phone and finding out what their needs are and what their evidence is. And by the way, a woman's word is evidence. Some people feel, well, I don't have any evidence. It's just me. Well, their word matters. Their word is valued, and we'll see what happens.
So,
but
Gloria, you've always
I'm glad that women are empowered and speaking out.
Yep, you've always been a champion of women's rights, and I was one of your daughter represented Harvey Weinstein for a while. Well, it might make for some interesting conversation at Thanksgiving time. But have you spoken to your daughter? Did you convince her to not represent him anymore, or what happened exactly? Gloria?
Oh. Didn't want to answer the Lisa Bloom question? Is that why? What happened to Gloria?
Oh, maybe that's her on line 3.
Okay.
We can only hope that she didn't hang up when I asked her that question. Keith, can you find out quickly?
She was laughing, so I think she was anticipating it. I mean, it's not a question that she hasn't been asked to handle before. I think she's previously said that she wouldn't have done it herself. But
okay, Gloria.
Yes.
Hi. So can you answer the question about your daughter representing Harvey Weinstein?
I didn't hear it because the line faded out.
Yeah.
What's the question?
Oh, just, your daughter represented Harvey Weinstein. Obviously, everybody knows that. But did you talk her out of representing him, or did she come to that on her own that she shouldn't represent him anymore?
She has a separate law firm. She makes her own decisions as to who her clients will be and who her clients will not be. So I have no input into that. But all I can say is, I love my daughter, I respect my daughter, I'm very proud of her, and she's a terrific attorney, and I support her in whatever she decides.
Would you have represented Harvey Weinstein if he had come to you?
Well, the policy of my firm is we only represent persons who allege that they are victims of sexual abuse.
Would
So
you?
not people who are accused of it, but that doesn't mean that other people shouldn't represent Mr. Weinstein or anyone accused of abuse. That every law firm can have its own policy.
Would you
And I
represent?
know that my daughter does support women's rights. That's not an issue.
Would you represent if an accuser of Kevin Spacey's came forward, like that actor that he kind of sort of apologized to? Is that somebody that you consider representing?
Well, depending on what the facts are, what the needs of the client are, and what the evidence is, I certainly would consider representing persons who are victims of anyone.
With respect to Hollywood and media, I mean, all these accusations and settlements and apologies from Bill O'Reilly to Mark Halperin to Neil deGrasse Tyson to all of the Hollywood celebrities, a culture you're very familiar with. What does it say about media and Hollywood, do you think?
By the way, I'm so glad you mentioned settlements because reportedly there were 8 confidential settlements with Mr. Weinstein over the years in settlements of alleged sexual harassment claims. And some people have criticized, the women who entered into those settlements. I've done thousands of confidential settlements over the 42 years that I've practiced law. And often a victim would like to have privacy and not be talking in the press about what they alleged happened to them.
Sure.
So that often these settlements are done without any lawsuit ever having to be filed. And I think we need to respect the right of victims to have their privacy, and not everyone wants to be public. And we should respect whatever they want.
Well,
it's not for us to decide that they must go public.
Okay, so stipulated. But what about Hollywood and the media and that culture, particularly when, boy, it sure seems like a lot of people knew a lot of things about Weinstein and a lot of people knew a lot of things about Kevin Spacey, it seems. I mean, he was parodied in Family Guy, for example. So what about the culture in Hollywood and media, two sectors you know well?
Well, during the course of a lawsuit, we'll have to find out what people knew, when they knew it. And, some people are saying, well, we knew he was with a lot of women. We didn't know that it wasn't consented to. We didn't know that they were actually victimized in terms of, we didn't know that they were alleging that they were raped or sexually assaulted. We don't know. And that's something that would be found out in the course of discovery in a lawsuit to the extent that it is possible.
But take it out of the courts for a second. We do know what the culture is, and we're seeing it being stripped bare. And so I just wonder if you would comment on the culture in these sectors and what you think about that, because a lot of people in those sectors spend a lot of time preening about how pro-feminist, pro-women's rights they are, and it turns out that those may be some of the biggest frauds.
Well, I do think that, using women as sex objects, and you have a point, is has been part of the culture. Somehow requiring women to engage in sexual favors, conduct, in order to get a job or keep a job, what we call a quid pro quo, trade sex in order to get an employment opportunity, has been part of the culture for many, many people in Hollywood. Women have been victimized. But what's wonderful is they're standing up and saying, we're not going to take this anymore. We have a right to be free of sexual harassment in the workplace. We have a right not to have to do that. And we don't want any of our daughters to have to do that in order to get a job or keep a job. And so there is a shift now. And it's no longer going to be business as usual. We're going to have, we're saying that our daughters deserve better. And they're going to stand up, and they fought for the right to be free of sexual harassment, and now they're going to assert their rights. And men are on notice if they're going to prey on women. There are going to be serious consequences, not just for the victims who may need therapy, may need medical care after what they've had to suffer, but for the predators, there are going to be serious consequences, reputational damage, economic damage, being treated as pariahs. So I think this is an important moment for the culture, and it's an important moment for victims.
She is Gloria Allred, attorney for numerous accusers of Harvey Weinstein. Gloria, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer.
It's what